just going to take you through RetainTalent. So a little bit of background on RetainTalent is we do a lot of work for AMPC, which is Australian Meat Processing Corporation, and one of their main business issues across the industry was they have about a 50 to 60% turnover in meat processing plants. So you can imagine the impact that actually has on their business, on their profitability, on their knowledge. So we partnered with them to build RetainTalent, and what it is, and I'll take you through some details, is it actually predicts when a person will leave an organisation in the coming 12 months. So what that allows you to do is be proactive about putting some HR processes in place to actually try and reduce your overall turnover, and it also produces a whole HR dashboard so you can monitor that. So a little bit like the energy, it's not only just a prediction, but we take the data consistently, automate it overnight, so as you make decisions, you can actually track the progress on those decisions against your prediction. So a little bit of background. The true cost of turnover. This quite surprised me when we started pulling this together, but if you've got an average employee wage of $60,000 with a turnover rate of 30%, then your cost per year is around $5.7 million. So that's based on about $25,000 per employee. So that's the replacement cost of actually someone leaving and you're having to replace that role. Now, when we're talking $60,000, we're talking about the meat industry. Obviously, if the salary is higher, that cost, the replacement cost, I have heard it's up to 35-40% of salary to actually replace someone in an organisation. So quite a large chunk of change. So there's a real dollar value there, but there's also beyond the dollars. So the loss of knowledge, if you've got high turnover, the retraining of people, increased time from HR, from managers to recruit. So you can see that you start to get in quite a vicious circle of hire, they leave, hire again, retrain, and starts to put a lot of pressure on not only HR but the rest of your organisation around morale and stuff, because they've got to pick up the slack as the high turnover continues. So same sort of diagram as energy. So the consistent part here is our platform. Yeah, so we have a solid platform that we've built on AWS based in Sydney, so all data stays onshore. But what we're really doing is just changing the data sources that are coming in. So if you looked at Pledge Zero, we're taking data from energy meters, from solar plants and so forth, and bringing that through our platform. In this scenario, we're actually taking payroll data or HR data or leave data. So again, we don't actually create the data, we just take the data that you've already got in your existing transactional systems. So we need base sort of HR data like employee ID, salary, all the different types of leave, which has quite a big influence on people predicting up the triggers and of people leaving. We can even take in L&D data or learning and development data. All that data sources has different influences on people's decisions to leave. We then run that through our machine learning model that we've actually built, and then again consistently put it out into a business intelligence environment. So all you need is a web browser, and you're looking at the dashboards and the reports, and you're starting to look at turnover, at risk prediction, and again, because we automate it, you can have your prediction. And then you track your actuals and start to use making decisions to actually reduce your turnover level. So what we've got with the last client that we did this, we actually predicted 80% of people who were going to leave in the next 12 months. And within that 87%, we got 96% accuracy rate. So what that actually means is we identified 87%. Out of that 87%, we got it wrong 3 times. So 3 people didn't actually leave that we predicted. Now that obviously that result will vary based on the data that we take in, based on all different factors within your business, but that from a prediction point of view is actually quite high. The key thing is when we would take your data, we have to retrain the model. Yeah, so every time we take in new data, we retrain the model because you'll have feature importance sort of things within your data. That can vary by client, by area, or even within, if you have multiple sites, it could even vary by site. So process-wise, as I said, we just take your existing HR data, we take it into the data warehouse, we then start to retrain the machine learning model over that. we look at, we start on a test set of data to actually learn or generate that prediction. And once we've worked out that prediction is quite accurate, like the 87%, we then run it over a set of production data that confirms that. So in this example, for example, when we're running over the production data, we actually take the termination date out, and therefore we can see what the prediction is. That's how we get the percentages when we're looking forward. Present it all into a visual dashboard, as you can see, and then what it allows you to do is to identify all the different insight that you can start to put programs in place. A couple of examples of why people leave. So we actually have it down, so we can get it down to a site level, but we can also get it down to an individual level. So a little bit hard to see, but what you've got here is all the different data sources that we bring in, like tenure, hourly rate, age, cost centre, employee type, so forth, which you probably recognise you have all that sort of data. We then have employee ID, so we generally don't take name, just ID, just to de-risk the whole solution and so forth. And then you've got an overall probability by individual of if they're thinking about leaving in the coming 12 months. Then what happens, so for this person, for example, is at 75% probability that they will leave. We then break it down by the different data sources or feature sets to say that is it tenure that's causing that person thinking about leaving, or is it the hourly rate, is it the age? For this particular person, it's site, location and cost centre. So there's something going on with that thing, so you can start to into those areas, so you can actually start to dig a little bit deeper around what causes might be. Whereas this person here, it's more about tenure. They've only been there for 8 months, so there's potential that they're going to leave quite quickly. So what do you do to make sure that they stay for another year or two? But by individual, you can start to identify the different areas. Also, we go down to areas like pay. So for this particular example, you'll see that we identified with salary that there's a turning point at $44.17. So everyone on the right-hand side of that amount, the probability of them leaving is quite low. Everyone on the left-hand side, it's actually quite high. Yeah. So we then go down to each individual pay rate. So if you look over to the side there, at $18.59, if you're a meat processing person or a labourer at that price range, that hourly wage, your probability of leaving is 70%. Yeah, so quite high. We also then know if you actually gave them a $1.40 pay rise and took them up to $19.99 an hour, the probability of them leaving drops by 10%. So you've got real factual data and knowledge to make some decisions. What you can do with that is do some calculations around, well, if I had 100 people and I all gave them a $1.40 pay rise, what's that cost to me versus the turnover rate or that $25,000 per person that might be leaving. And we go to that sort of level on all those different sort of data sources, so you can actually go deep into the analysis and actually identify programs and stuff to put in place. So what does it look like? So as I said, we run your data through our platform, through the machine learning program, retrain the algorithms and so forth, specific to your data, and it automatically populates a dashboard, and this is what you guys would see. So here we've got high-level sort of metrics. So we always start with the high-level metrics at a business level. So for this particular organisation, they've got over 3,500 people. The current turnover rate is 21.9%, but our prediction is it's going to go up to 50% turnover. We then calculate based on the $20,000 that it's going to cost them $27 million in that year based on turnover costs. Over on the right-hand side, depending on your size, you can split the data by site. If you've got multiple sites, you can look at by location, even going down into employee type, visa type. Visa is a very important component from a meat processing point of view, bringing offshore resources in. So we look at it by visa as well. Then you cut down below, you start to get into the detail. So the first one that we've got is by manager. So often managers have a fairly big influence on people's decision to leave, but by age group and by role, and again, it continues down. But what you've got here is by manager, you've got their current head count, and then this blue dot going down here is their predicted turnover for that particular manager. So we've gone down from total site or location down to manager. And then what happens is I can actually start to drill down on this particular data source. So we go from the high level and drill down to the detail. And what that allows me to do is now I'm actually looking at that manager's team. Yep. So that manager has a headcount of 2,700, turnover rate, departure rate, and down here I'm starting to actually list by employee their probability of actually leaving the organisation in the coming 12 months. Important thing is that we can also start to look at by job title. So again, I'll use the meat industry as an example. Is butchers, for example. If you have 50 butchers and you've got 30 of them thinking of leaving, then you want to do something about that pretty quick, because all of a sudden your profitability is going to go right down because all your key cuts and so forth are going to turn into offal. So that starts to impact your ability to deliver to sales orders and so forth. Forklift drivers might be another one. Labourers, maybe you can replace them a little bit easier, but you can start to look at it by critical role. If you had some sort of rating system within the organisation, like 1 to 5, 5 being an outstanding employee, we can take that data as well. So you can start to look at it by all your 5s that are thinking of leaving versus your 1s, and so you start to get a full picture by role, by rating, by salary, all that sort of stuff around what your employees are thinking, and then it allows you to put things into place. That's Retain Talent.